This is an original instrumental. Soulful music. Enjoy.
This is another Infosol production. Fossil Rod.
This is an original instrumental. Soulful music.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Judith Reisman with us this particular evening. It is always a tremendous honor and pleasure to have her with us. Next week we will be doing a town hall where we will be talking about the protection of children. But tonight, as I've shown you the picture of Dr. Kinsey, of Hunter Biden, it is in reference to Dr. Kinsey that we consider what's going on this particular night in America. I want to give, before we get started, the words of President Trump regarding our scenarios and situations.
Joe Biden is always and has been a corrupt politician, and as far as I'm concerned, the Biden family is a criminal enterprise. If you read this laptop, I tell you what, this is called the laptop from hell. The only laptop that was almost as good, maybe worse, was the laptop of Anthony Weiner. Do you remember that? Ding, 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 ding. He got hacked too, just like Scully got hacked. Remember, he said he got hacked. He was sending messages to very, very young women, girls. He was sending messages, a lot of them, and he got hacked. They always say they got hacked. Scully got hacked, right? Scully. He was a never-Trumper. He got hacked. You know, I've never known a person that said he got hacked that got hacked. Nobody gets hacked. To get hacked, you need somebody with 197 IQ, and he needs about 15% of your password, right? It doesn't happen. So Scully got hacked. And now on Thursday, I go up another real great one. Another great one. Kristen Welker. She's a radical Democrat. Look at them, they're getting angry. She's a radical Democrat. She deleted her entire account. Everything is deleted. But I've known her. She's been screaming questions at me for a long time.
Your sound is off. Is my sound off?
No, I apologize. Oh my God. Thank you, Dr. Reisman. Someone's got to do
You're
this.
welcome. Now, who's Christine? Who's the woman? I missed that.
Christine Welker was the young woman who moderated the debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden the other night. And
yeah, sure. Okay.
Mm-hmm. But the key thing in that particular snippet was the fact that Donald Trump referred to Hunter Biden's laptop in reference to Hillary Rodham Clinton's laptop, well, Anthony Weiner, who had all of Hillary Rodham Clinton's stuff on there. And I got to ask you tonight.
Married to Huma Aberdeen.
Yes.
Who was tied in with the Muslim Brotherhood, who was Hillary's right or whatever hand,
both hands at times.
Yeah, well.
And Dr. Reisman, this pornography situation is completely out of control. Child abuse is completely out of control in America, to the point where the media forbids people to ask questions about this. I wanted to get your thoughts, first and foremost, on Hunter Biden and the accusation or allegation that he was having sexual relations with his 14-year-old niece.
Well, I haven't seen the photographs, but I've seen the emails. Okay, and the emails make it very clear that he was involved in some kind of very questionable sexual activity with the child. This is a child. And there were other little girls involved that apparently some were family or I don't know, and some were not. But his father, of course, has been uniformly questionable with all of his sniffing, little girls' hair, and the accusations that the young woman had that worked as an intern, or yeah, an intern, I think it was, in his office, which was quite credible.
Yes.
So I hate to say like father, like son, uh, but certainly Sonny Boy, who we know is a cocaine addict,
Yes.
heavy cocaine, and we know that the drug use is linked. Really, that abuse is linked often, quite often, to sexual abuse as well. So abusers.
Yes.
So his wheeling and dealing, the kind of thing that he's on record as being involved in with the Chinese communists, with the Ukrainians, and all that sort of thing. To me, of course, that's horrible, horrible. But from my point of view, in a way, it's secondary. It's not secondary, but certainly it's no less important what he was doing to children, and we don't know how many other children. I mean,
Yes.
these are just what's on his laptop. I mean,
Hmm.
what did he not have pictures of?
Now,
Right? There's no question that there's sex addiction is part of what we're looking at, along with the drug addiction, the sex addiction, and sex addiction these days usually moves down to children. Very definitely moves down. So starts with adults, moves to teenagers, from teenagers to children, from children to we are having look every day, almost every day I get reports in about somebody who has been raping a baby, a baby. Yeah, this is not even unusual any longer. I mean, it's not. I wish it were, and we knew it was going to happen. We knew it back in '83, when I was supposed to be working on that task force with the FBI Behavioral Science Unit and the Department of Justice, Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, when we were assigned to look at pornography. And we were looking at that time, we're talking '83.
yes.
We barely, I mean, in '83, we're talking about Playboy was 53. About 15 years later, we got Penthouse. 10 years later, Hustler. So, I mean, we were just on the cusp of becoming addicted, and this is an addiction.
Yes.
You saw this Tobus, how do I say his name, who was on a Zoom call,
Yeah. Jeffrey
on a
Tubin. Yes. He is now, his last name is synonymous with masturbation.
Yeah,
Tubin.
I mean,
Wow.
hello, our children have to hear that allegedly well-respected Washington lawyer types, and commentators are doing that on a Zoom call. What was he thinking? Oh, he was thinking about some of the females or males. I don't know,
Yeah.
which ones who are on that call. I mean, you know, and he was so driven. He had lost. That's the concept of addiction. He lost himself so totally Yeah,
Yeah.
that he would put himself in and his family and his children in that position. So, and it's all part of the child sexual abuse. I can assure you, we have a problem there. A problem.
Dr. Reisman, I gotta ask you here, Reisman, forgive me, Dr. Reisman. I gotta ask you here, um, what is it that a grown man sees in a 14-year-old girl? I'm married. I see my wife. She looks beautiful, but I don't see her the way I see my 14-year-old niece. Um, I, is there something wrong with me?
No, you know that. I mean, of course not. What you're looking at is the blending of shame and fear with sexual arousal. It's flight or fight. The FFF, right?
Yes.
Fear, is and the fourth F is right. Your adrenaline is shooting up. Uh, if this happens, and I would say early enough, especially, and this is what's going on in the schools everywhere. K through 12, children are being exposed to sexual stimuli, which traumatizes them absolutely. And so that trauma associates fear, obviously, and shame, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Children are not capable of dealing with sexual stimuli.
Yeah.
So, fear and shame with the sex that they're told, that, whether it's homosexual or transgender or all these, there are now sixty genders.
Wow.
Yeah,
I can't keep up with the original two.
right. Most people can't. Yeah. So, so even children are being exposed to such an extent that it is going to traumatize them and shape their lives. And this can be offset by having a very loving and intact father mother relationship and so on. It can be offset, but more and more children do not have access to a father and a mother in the home without pornography. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's another problem because we're bringing so much pornography is in the home that children are exposed in the home and or the family member. And by the way, women are very much becoming addicted,
Wow.
very much becoming addicted. Well, yeah. I mean, shame, remember, shame is at the bottom of the whole thing, and fear. You link shame and you link fear with sexual stimuli and not a non-developed undeveloped brain, if because the child's brain does not mature until roughly 21 to 25, depends on whose data you're looking at.
Yes.
And you have gotten yourself a huge problem with addiction. We had 13,000, or it was 17,000. I don't remember which. It doesn't matter. Children sexually abusing children in school.
Mm.
In school. I think we talked about that last time.
Yes.
It still boggles my mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Within a few years, in 2013 or 14 or something like that, to whatever, a few years. Uh, this is not Tom Sawyer and Becky Thatcher. This is not a boy and a girl with wonderful friendships, or he's pulling her pigtails
Tails. Yeah.
because he wants to get her attention. This is not what's going on now in school. That we are quote getting sex education into our schools. Well, who's educating our children? Excuse me? There
Exactly.
should be no sex education in our schools. Only the parents should be talking to their children about sexual issues.
Dr. Reisman, Uh, a man being attracted to a kid just it's just not right in my opinion. It just don't make no sense.
Yeah.
In my country upstart uh, conversation, it just don't make no sense at all. But is that person who is attracted to a child the victim of manipulation and molestation, and that might induce the interest in children?
Oh, very often. Very often. Then again, we go back to fear and shame. Oh, very often. We used to look. We always knew in the old days that sexual abuse was at the bottom of a great deal of homosexual activity. Homosexual activity.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, then it metamorphized. We have, you know, that is the basis of much heterosexual abuse activity. Yeah. But in addition, you have a hypersexualized, we have a whole country that has been hypersexualized since 1948, since Kinsey. So you have entertainers, the entertainment community. What is it? The Hollywood bunch? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We have the Hollywood crew, right? Which brings us It's not like you're watching uh, John Wayne films. I can assure you, anybody could sit down and watch a John Wayne film, and there would be no problem with children being over sexualized, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Not at all. But today's films, and it's not just today, it's been for quite a few years, since they got radicalized, since they got free sex, sex, drugs, and rock and roll and all that kind of thing. And we have so many Me Too ladies protesting. Well, I'm sorry. I don't hear too many of those Me Too ladies protesting about the pedophile problem in Hollywood, which they
Yeah.
know. They know is rampant. Children are being rampantly abused in the Hollywood scene by some of our major directors who hire even sex offenders, sex predators who have injured, harmed children who've been finally put in prison. I've forgotten the name of this one guy. He comes out and uh, and the major I have written about it. Major director hires him back, knowing that the man is rapes kids.
Wow.
Hires him back for other films with kids in the films. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they were a series of horror films. I don't remember the names of them offhand. Um, and he hires him back. Well, excuse me, why does the director hire this sex offender, sex predator? He knows is a sex predator back. He did Godfathers or something. I forgot. Anyway, why does he hire him? I always suspect there's blackmail there. There's something
Ah.
that sex predator knows about that director or that director's family member or somebody else. And he
Exactly.
says, I'm ready to come back to work. I'll work with these kiddies, no problem. Yeah. And the director hires him. Yeah. And that's not uncommon. And what was he played, and played, what is it? Food, what is the name of that? He played this little guy well, anyway,
Yeah.
we know there's been they have testified to the pedophile problem in Hollywood, and it's been completely covered up. I'll tell you another thing that bothers me. A lot of these TV shows that allegedly deal with sex crimes, yeah,
Yes.
sex crimes.
Yes.
I'll tell you, there's pornography is always in a sex crime. It's always part of a sex crime.
Wow.
If it's not, that's rare. it happens, I suppose, yeah. But you'll always find pornography. Well, how come none of these very nice shows about sex crimes and mental, people solving these horrible kidnappings of the women,
Hmm.
children, girls? Well, if there's children, they'll mention it's child pornography. Okay, they'll mention that. All right.
Yes.
But pornography's given a clean slate in these films. It is you never see some a film where they're saying, well, obviously, look for the porn, just like you
Exactly.
look for the drugs, just like you look for the guns, just like you look for other things. Look for the porn. We knew that back in the 70s when the law enforcement was doing work in this area. You always look for the porn because
Dr.
it's
Reisman,
there.
you mentioned pornography, and you
Yeah,
mentioned the fact that children are introduced to this through molestation, the whole
yeah,
sexual abuse, the raping of children. But you've been in Washington like I have, and you know that there are powers that be who do not want the Joe Biden, Hunter Biden story to open up the panoply of children who are part of the ruling establishment, some
yeah,
not, because it would blow the cover off of the Hollywood types. It would blow the covers off of the ruling class in the District of Columbia. It would blow the covers off of the Wall Street guys.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is a dangerous thing. How committed
Yes.
are people to keeping a cover over not only the Hunter Biden story about the 14-year-old niece, but generally pedophilia in Washington, D.C.?
Well, I think it's complete commitment. Now, President Trump has done more than anybody to try to crack that open. He's gotten more people arrested, and convictions are there because you have to remember you're dealing with the judiciary as well,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So we have had these liberal judges who have let men who rape their own children,
Mm.
slap them on the wrist, and the proof is there, and the children have testified, and often there's films, whatever. Slap them on the wrist and send them home. So that's been going on for years. The whole notion that the judiciary has let him skate by. Now, President Trump has hopefully put a lot of conservative. We hope because somebody's conservative, that does not necessarily mean right that
Yes.
he doesn't have or she skeletons in their own closet. And if somebody has been, say, committing adultery or and having sex with prostitutes, which legislators get caught at all the time, this all enables blackmail.
Hmm.
All of this, that's one of the reasons you try and keep your leadership moral. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
because they can be blackmailed. They can be blackmailed, and blackmailed not just by Americans, by foreign countries, by people with foreign interests that are not our interests at all. So, so that starts to happen, and if we have, and the FBI,
Yes.
excuse me, if the FBI and the CIA are not working properly, morally, for our country, on our values, and reflecting our moral values, our Judeo-Christian moral values, then they're going to be doing things for themselves, which is not in our interest, not in the interests of our children, not in the interests of our country.
Now you
And
mentioned
that
the
that's what's been going on.
Exactly. You mentioned the FBI. The FBI had the pornography and sexual abuse videos on Hunter Biden's laptop for over a year, and they did nothing. Is the FBI corrupt? And what should Donald
Yes,
Trump do about that
yes. I
situation?
I don't think there's any question. It's massive corruption. Not only the leadership in the FBI, uh, which would be certainly obvious,
Yes.
but all the surrounding people that support that system. People should have turned the leadership in, you know? I mean, others knew in the institutional structure. And that's the problem. I mean, when you start corrupting a country's morals, we've had three generations
Hmm.
since Kinsey, three generations.
Yes.
And we, in one of my books, most of my books, yeah, in all my books, I have a picture of Kinsey lecturing at Berkeley in 1952 or 53. He's lecturing. Thousands of students in the audience, thousands. And, they're all listening to him as though he's their guru. He is their Saint Kinsey.
Yes.
Well, they become your doctors, your lawyers, your judges. They become at Berkeley, because only about roughly 6% of our population at the time could go through to college at that level, right?
Yes.
So they became your leaders, and your entertainers, your publishers, your doctors, your lawyers. How come the Hunter Biden tapes, the whole business, was censored by big tech, by Facebook, and by the other one, Twitter?
Yep. Yep.
How come? Because the corruption goes all the way through. There's no other excuse for Facebook and Washington Post, right? New
Yes.
York Times, right?
Exactly.
And Twitter and all, to keep that information from the public. Do you know, there's no way the American public did not deserve, should not have that information about Hunter Biden and his father.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dr. Reisman, is Dr. Kinsey responsible for creating, well, inducing the sexual predators of today?
Well, I mean, he is responsible for giving the carte blanche
Hmm.
of science,
Yes.
based on science. He said that all children are sexual from birth. They are born sexual. Yeah.
Hmm.
And he spun off into SICUS, the Sex Information Council of the United States, and Planned Parenthood. They were organized to take his data and put those data into our laws, into the Model Penal Code, which the American Law Institute Model Penal Code, which then went down into all the states in our country. So he had that kind of massive influence. No other psychologist, no other biologist, nobody had that kind of influence.
Wow.
Because yeah, he did that, and he started the pornography revolution because, well, he was making pornography in his attic. He was a sex addict himself.
Exactly.
So, yeah, he was a psychotic individual who, a sadomasochist. He was, as is common, really, with so many who are addicted to pornography. Sadomasochism becomes part of that because it's part of the shame and
Yes.
part of the fear. You're always looking for that high, something more novel, something to get you to give you what your poor wife, she's got to sleep sometime, and she's got kids to care for, and maybe she has a job outside, but I mean, come on, give her a break, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, so the whole view of marriage, the whole view of family, uh, got shifted, got changed. That was when we started having no fault divorce, you know,
Exactly.
and that sort of thing. And we got rid of the adultery laws. We made the adult through Kinsey. The adultery laws were no longer like crime. Well, it was
Exactly.
a little bit, but I mean, we used to punish. You could for rape, you could get in half our states almost. You could get capital punishment,
Yeah.
and in the other half, I mean, and the other half, life in prison. Now, our Me Too ladies, yeah,
Hmm.
who are very upset because when they had to get their starring role, they had to do stuff they didn't want to do, and they did it. Yeah, certainly Marilyn Monroe spoke about that. She spoke
Exactly.
about which, yeah. So you're not going to blame somebody for wanting to get her job, but there are people who don't do what they're if enough women didn't do that, right,
Yep.
you might have jobs going to the most talented people, right?
Hmm.
And so there are these kind of complications. But yeah, Kinsey spun off into that. And then that spun off into sex education in the classroom, K through 12.
Exactly. Doctor, I only have a few seconds here, so I want to give you the last word. But when you mentioned the fact that Dr. Kinsey was a sadomasochist, was an
Yeah,
abuser of children who
yeah,
practiced sexuality on infants,
yeah.
was he the model that the left is using now to keep the media and everyone else silent about pornography, about child abuse, about sexual harassment and haranguing of children? And then my last quick question to you: is there a cure for a person who has pedophilia?
We don't know of any cure. If you've
Thank
gone
you.
down the trail that much, just be a good guy, stay in prison, and do your artwork in prison.
Hmm.
Write some nice books or poetry or something. I mean, do something useful while you're in prison. But no, there's an absolutely no way. And who would take the chance?
Yeah.
It's not worth one child that you release a person into the society. Okay, that's one. And your first question, what was your first question?
First question about Dr. Kinsey. It,
Ah, yes. Yeah, he became the model for our society. He was this psychopathic, and he was bi homosexual, more homosexual
oh,
than bi. He only kept a wife as a beard,
yes.
because as soon as he could, he had sex with his men folks upstairs. He had sex with his subjects, which is unheard of, right? Yeah,
Wow.
he had 1,000. He said 1,400 sex offenders were part of his sexual behavior in the human male. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And he becomes the foundation. Then, of course, once you said it's legal, okay, homosexuality is normal, is natural, because he's the one who created that the Kinsey scale. Uh, Everything was up for grabs.
Exactly. Dr. Reisman, thank you so much for being with us tonight. You will be joining us next Friday as we put this up here on TECN TV. We will be doing a town hall on the media's sexualization and abuse of children. And if you think that I'm being hyperbolic, you are most amiss. They are coming for your children because they are not people in the eyes of the radicals. They are things, tools, for their sexual desire. Hunter Biden is an expression of that tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Dr. Reisman, for being with us. The Reisman Institute and protecting our children from around the world.
Thank you for having me.
You're awesome. Absolutely awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to take this particular break. And I am ever so thankful for you all being here tonight. I want you all to come back next Friday night, 7 o'clock. I know you got your children Halloween on Saturday and you plan on doing things with them. Before you take them out on Halloween, please sit down with Dr. Reisman and I as we talk about the protection of your children. Normally when we get to this particular hour of the night, I always ask this one particular question, and it's a very simple one. In fact, I ask two, and let me begrudge you into questioning. Number one, do you know where your children are? Number two, do your children know where you are?
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?